All
There it
right.
is.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Happy Hacking. I'm Kat from Major League Hacking, and today we have Emmanuel here. Hello, Emmanuel.
Everyone, I'm Emmanuel.
And we're going to be talking about this really exciting viral tweet that he had and how it's based off of a very, very cool story that I'm sure a lot of y'all in the community can relate to. And yeah, we're just going to have a great time. Thank you so much for coming
Mhm.
in, Emmanuel.
Thank you. Super
Great.
excited for this.
Yeah, awesome. So, for those of you who haven't seen the tweet, I didn't even realize it got this big. I know I saw it once it got posted, but it has 1.2 million likes. I'd just like to start with like,
Oh,
how are your notifications doing?
it's a lot better now, but like for the entire week after I posted it, it was a hot mess and it just kept coming. I had to put it on mute because my Twitter app just won't work. But it's a lot better now.
I'm glad. All right, so let's
Yeah.
pop this open so that way people can see the tweet. You went off with the how it started versus how it's going trend on Twitter. Um, it looks like you've got this Snapchat where someone's making fun of you about your brain still working at 2:30.
Right.
I think that's very impressive. We see some more folks telling you like at the library again, you got to get a life. And then, hey, look at that. I know that company, Major League Hacking. You won a hackathon, and now you work at Microsoft. That's so exciting. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, can you start by just giving us a little bit more color? Tell us a little bit more about how that story really progressed from your perspective.
Right. So it started in freshman year, and I came into college not really knowing anything about like creating projects or like interviewing or hackathons and like nothing like that. I just knew I wanted to do computer science, and I knew it was going to be a lot of math and a lot of programming, but I didn't know too much about it. But in my freshman year, I got to meet like other people from different schools, different colleges, through this organization we had in my school called National Society of Black Engineers. And then I got a better understanding of what was going to require to get to the position I wanted to get to. And so I knew it was going to be a lot of work because I hadn't done a lot, like I hadn't done way too much going into college. And so that's how it got started. And I essentially used Snapchat as a way to like kind of hold myself accountable because my Snapchat was like super tiny. It was just me and like 20 other people, and it was just us posting random things on Snapchat. So I decided to use my Snapchat as a way to like post my updates, even though no one cared and no one like knew like anything I was posting. But it was just I just knew at the end of the day I had to post what I'd done or what I was up to, and so that was just my way of holding myself accountable to like the 10 other people or 20 other people who were also on my Snapchat. And so, yeah, the first frame actually was me working at the hackathon I won. Yeah. And at first we got like the simple part of the project done way before 12 a.m. But one of my team members thought of something else we should do. Obviously, it was a lot of work. Nobody knew how we're going to do it, but we decided to just stay up and like push through it and try to get the feature we wanted done. And then every other frame was just me working on like technical interview prep and leak coding, trying to get like internships and all of that. And so yeah, but most of it was just friendly banter because it was me and 20 other people. And so I'd always reply to their story and tell them to get it live. They reply to my story and tell me to get it live. But in the end, we all knew what we wanted and we all knew where we wanted to go to. And obviously, it wasn't going to be easy. And yeah, eventually, um, on the bright side, it seems to be working out because it's a lot easier for me. I don't have to stay up until like 2, 3 anymore. Although I still work hard, definitely, but the pressure is kind of off me. But for that starting point, I just knew I had to push a lot so it gets easier, my junior and senior year and beyond. But I just knew I had to put in the work then. So that's the story.
That's so exciting. Yeah, I always wondered those Snapchat messages. Was that like friends being like, "Ha
Yeah.
ha," or was that like an aggressive thing?
Yeah, no, it wasn't aggressive. Actually, I think I was the aggressive one to my friends most of the time. Like, go get a life. But it was mostly banter. Yeah.
That's a good clarification. I've always wondered that about that tweet, like how
Yeah.
inappropriate.
They were coming for him. The Twitter fans were coming for him.
Well, don't get bitter, just get better.
Yeah.
So which hackathon was that you won?
Right. So like before, so that was during my freshman year, and before I actually went for that one, I applied to a ton of hackathons. But because my school was in like a rural area, and most like hackathons were so far away, it was hard to like get to the location for those hackathons. And so this one was different. It was at Clemson University, which is like 2 hours away from my school, which is in Orangeburg. And at first I didn't even think I was gonna go because I didn't get like a travel scholarship. But me and some other folks from my school, we signed like we wrote like a petition to the chair and then the dean to like sponsor travel to Clemson University. And eventually it worked out. They organized like a shuttle, a school shuttle for us to go to the location. And yeah, that's how I got to the Clemson University hackathon along with say 15 other people from my school.
Oh, that's awesome. It sounds
Yeah.
like you really found a great community at your school and
Mhm.
a really good support system. I do want to point out the fact that you were using Snapchat to keep yourself accountable. I think
Yeah.
that's a great idea. I really hope a lot of people took notes on that in the stream. Because it's such a
Mhm.
good way to like keep your friends in this like creative momentum and keep working and everything else like that. So
Yeah.
what did your team actually build at the event once you got there?
Right. So the basic idea was a recycling app that uses like object recognition. Like for example, you see a plastic bottle, you scan the plastic bottle, and we connected the app to Google Cloud Vision to recognize that object. And then we called like a database to return the different ways you can reuse that bottle or whatever material it is. And so at 12 o'clock, or sometime around that time, we were like, yeah, we've been done for a while. We've just been jumping for events, eating free food, and we really didn't have anything to do because the basic and the foundation of the app was just object recognition with Google Cloud's APIs. One of my teammates actually, thought of an idea of like adding like a social components to it, and the rationale was I personally, the only reason why I eat avocado is because everyone on Instagram eats avocado toast, and so we're like, okay, maybe we can get people to recycle and reuse things if they can see their friends reusing and recycling things in creative ways. So that's the social component we decided to add. After you scan your bottle, and you know there are different ways you can use your bottle or a wine bottle or maybe a pot or something, and you finally maybe turn your bottle into a flower vase or something, you can share that online, and maybe someone with a similar bottle can go, damn, that looks really cool, I should probably do that too. And so that social network would definitely get people to reuse more, recycle more. And that's what we're working on. It was actually an incomplete feature when we presented, but we had that idea, and I think that got like a lot of the hackathon judges excited. But that was the project we worked on. We called it DIY Cam. It's not really a good name, but it's, you get the point. DIY and Cam. It's yeah.
It's straightforward.
It
Whenever
is.
you get a project that's just a bunch of letters without any vowels, it's like, what does that mean? That's so cool, though. I really,
Yeah.
really like that project. So you
Mhm.
won that event. And then, like, if you could go back in time to yourself right after that event, like, what do you think you were thinking, and what do you think you would say to yourself now?
Right. So like going into the event, I was a freshman. My team was entirely like freshmen. And so we had a business major who didn't know how to code, and a computer science major who like another computer science major who was just like getting started on how to code. And so we definitely faced a lot of like self-doubt, like and so at a point we just decided to do like the best thing we could possibly do, and then just enjoy the rest of the event and like hop from one event to another. And so we're not really focused on building initially until like 12 a.m. when we actually, or like a little before 12 a.m. when we actually decide to start building. So I think going into the event, just like tell myself to like it doesn't really matter, freshman or not, just definitely. I mean, sure, you might not win it, but just like a lot of learning opportunities that I think I missed because of that. Oh, I'm a freshman mentality. And so I wasn't like confident to meet people. I wasn't confident to like jump like into building something that was extremely advanced. And so I and like the rest of the team, we definitely like didn't think it was a good idea to go way too advanced. And so I think if we had the mentality that regardless of our classification, that it's still okay to meet recruiters, talk to different engineers, and even though we're going to sound dumb, we're still going to learn something from them. So that's definitely the takeaway from the event.
Yeah, that's such a cool, like all of the things that you described, I feel like are just also so relatable of things that I hear in the community. Such a like you know, I mean it's just such a very powerful experience to go, especially freshman year,
And
when you know
yeah,
nothing, you know, especially if was it the first semester freshman year? Had you even had any
like
like programming experience at that point?
it was January. The only programming experience I had was Tumblr and programming my Tumblr. So nothing past that, and WordPress too, but nothing super formal. But I was definitely getting started, and most of my team were getting started. And it was so freshman friendly, and so like the environment was just really good for beginners to actually learn before they build or to meet other people. So that was definitely helpful too.
Yeah, that's so funny that you said Tumblr. I also started coding through Tumblr. I felt like such a hacker at 15,
Man,
changing a color on CSS.
amazing. Yeah. My
What?
Tumblr was really clutch. Like 2014, 2015, I had really clutch Tumblr because I hate to on CSS without those custom themes. Yeah.
Yeah, I love hearing about whenever someone started with like Tumblr and Neopets or something like that. Always very humble beginnings.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. So you were able to take that experience, and now you're actually working at Microsoft. So how did you take your sort of like hackathon, you know, experiences and what you learned, and really start taking that towards building a like a long, sustainable career?
Right. Actually, I'm not working at Microsoft full time. I'm still in school, but I'm a two-time intern at Microsoft, and I'm currently at another company for the fall. But but yeah, how essentially like most of the things that actually, and so I interned at Microsoft after my freshman year actually, and as Explorer intern, and every single thing that I did before like getting to that point in the interview actually paid off. Like the different people I met who happened to also intern at Microsoft and happened to give like a lot of good advice. Like the leak code problems I solved, even though they were like from the easy to like the really complex one, I think that created like a very good foundation. And also like the different hackathons and the different projects I worked on, it definitely was an amazing conversation starter for the interview and for like different other interviews. And before my interview with Microsoft, I worked on a very scrappy sentiment analysis app, which was just, it wasn't even like machine learning or anything fancy. It was just a dictionary of like different words and the sentiments attached to them. And I was trying to like infer sentiments from like different texts. And my interviewer actually found our projects to be very interesting. And I'm like, why? It's not that deep. You're a senior engineer at Microsoft. Why do you think it's interesting? But that actually that created an opportunity for me to intern at Cortana, which is like Microsoft AI assistant, after my freshman year. So I just realized like all the little things I did, which felt very relevant and very unimportant, actually paid up eventually. Because number one, great conversation starter. Number two, I had something to put on my resume because I wasn't necessarily thinking about my resume, but it just happened to work out. So yeah.
Yeah, I had a very similar experience when I was a hacker looking for jobs, just
Mhm.
people that were like, oh, wow, you have 3 software projects on your resume. And it really showed
Yeah.
that, you know, you're doing stuff outside of school. So did you
Yeah.
find when you interned at Microsoft, there were other people that kind of either went to hackathons or had that sort of like hacker mentality? I know a lot of
Yeah.
people are worried about leaving the community after they
Yeah.
graduate.
Yeah. A lot of people actually, and I participated at the Microsoft Hackathon, which is like the largest private hackathon, I think in the world, but in the US, I'm not too sure. So yeah, I definitely met a lot of people who were interested in like hacking and interested in creating stuff like super under pressure, and like in such a short time I'm meeting different people. And at Microsoft, I was in a bay, like just one huge office with full of interns who just love creating stuff. And so for the hackathon, we because of like because of how much we loved creating, we just decided to do something. It was super last minute because I don't know, everything's just always last minute with me. But the night before, we just stayed at the office creating like a hackathon project, which was very scrappy, but we just wanted to create something. And we ended up like pitching and demoing the day after. So I definitely met a ton of people who weren't just like focused on just like schoolwork, but were really interested in like creating different projects outside school. And I thought that was super amazing. And the opportunity and the chance to demo at such a huge stage was also like a great experience too.
Yeah, I can't even imagine that. So how many people were at the hackathon? Was it
A
nervous like
lot.
students to a big
Woo.
corporate thing?
Yeah, it was huge. I don't want to just it was a lot of people. I don't know the exact amount, but there are like about 100,000 people in Seattle, or about that number. And so obviously not everyone came to the hackathon, but it was like this huge tent and like different setups and different tables, and people working on like extremely cool stuff from robotics to AI and like all the buzzwords you can think of. And so it wasn't just about creating and demoing, it was also about going to like different tables and seeing like all the insane things people are building. There was a ton of people, a ton of really smart people I could learn from. And also the judges that came to our table also had like really nice suggestions we could add to our app.
Yeah, that sounds like a hacker's dream. That's so,
Man,
so cool.
the only thing I regret is the office we're in is like 5 minutes or 10 minutes away from main campus. And so the hackathon was a week long, but you had to go, but people had the opportunity to just stay in the tent for like an entire week with meeting different people. But we couldn't really do that because it was towards the end of my internship and the office was so far away. So we did a project the night before in the office and we went to the tent on that day. But yeah, it was definitely like a great experience.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. I'm so glad that you've been able to like build off of your experiences from that like freshman year and everything.
Yeah.
Now you said you did a lot of like lead code and it's obvious, you were like grinding a lot that year. Do you have any advice towards like freshmen or sophomores that are, still trying to like get their feet wet and figure out, is this their thing? They're starting to look at jobs. Like, do you have any advice for them?
Right. I think an advice I have is also an advice I kind of got in freshman year too. And I think it's a quote by Alice Longworth Roosevelt, and it's to feel what is empty, empty what is full, and scratch where it itches. It's it's very vague, but what that means to me is like to feel what is empty means to always remain curious and always like keep learning and always like want to learn. And to empty what is full is once you think you know enough in your domain, it's always helpful to teach other people in your community and be community driven. And definitely, I understand the detriments of having like a silo mentality where you don't like interact with the people in your community. And then the final one is to scratch where it itches. And what that means to me is it's just like I think we're very fortunate to be in an industry where you could build solutions to solve some of like the world's biggest challenges. And if there's something that you think upsets you, or there's something that you'd like to see in the world, to scratch where it itches to me means to like build something that you think can address that issue, which is especially like easier for us in computer science, computer engineering, and in the tech space to just get on our computer and kind of like create different solutions to some of the problems we think some of the problems the world face. So those two, like keep learning, always share when you think you know enough in your domain, and just keep scratching where it is.
Yeah, that's great advice. So
Yeah.
you could write a little book about that, like a self.
Ta.
I could see it. We
Right.
do have a question from a Twitch commenter. Um, they're asking, how do you manage to get a new and interesting idea for every hackathon project? Do you have anything
Right.
to say about that or your sort of
Right.
ideation process?
Right. So going into the hackathon, most times your head's just blank. You don't know anything you want to build. You just know some like web technologies or app technologies. So it definitely helps before the hackathon starts to like talk to different people the only reason why it was different from me is I came with folks from my school, so I just like formed a team with folks from my school, and that's something I definitely changed to meeting different people and forming teams with different people from like different other schools. And so while you might not have like the best idea, you're definitely going to meet someone who has like it's I nobody comes to like the entire like vision, right? It's just like bits and pieces that you just like form with your team. So you might have an idea to do something so tiny, like me was just object recognition, and someone had the social part, and we put the two of them together to form like this new app. And so I think that's going to be the same, like talking to different people. Obviously, you're going to have like some small ideas, but then you can like build on your idea by talking to someone. So I'd definitely say just keep talking to people, keep going for different learning series at the hackathon. And most times you're just going to have a good idea of what you want to do. And if you don't, your team will, and you can build on it and like give your own insight. But the last thing I think one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to remain silent. You definitely want to talk to different people.
Totally agree. And I think there's such really cool themes of your story of like building off of other people and community and like relying on them and, holding each other accountable, which I think
Yeah,
really does bring all of that to a top. It really does take a village for some of
yeah,
these projects.
hmm definitely.
And I think another important thing is that also, these projects don't need to be finished by the end of the hackathon. You said
Right,
there were still some things you wanted to add to yours.
right. But
Yeah,
it's all,
yeah.
yeah. But it doesn't need to be finished. You can still tell the story, and I think that also counts too. It's not really just about building a complete solution, but like the creative process that goes into it. And I think most judges would appreciate that if you can say, oh, this is where we're at now, but we have like these other really cool ideas that we can implement in these many ways. That's definitely a plus.
Yeah, absolutely. So now if you were to imagine, like 5 years from now, you do a how it started, how it's going, and maybe you have how it started you right now. Where do you want that how it's going to be? What do we expect to see from Emmanuel?
So 5 years from now, where do I want how it's going to be? That's an interesting question. So, oof, I think I'm still in like in I'm still at the point in my career when I'm like exploring different things. And I think the end goal for me is I want to use technology in some way to like create a more equitable world and redefine like a lot of things, especially like in like the education space, because technology has redefined how we communicate, it's redefined how we consume entertainment. But it like in terms of education, there hasn't been like a lot of like disruption when it comes to technology, except like uploading the classroom online. But how we learn really hasn't changed. And that's something that worries me because growing up, I didn't have like concrete learning challenges, but it was also difficult for me to like learn in traditional classrooms. And like you think technology has probably done a lot to like change how we learn, but it still has a long way to go. So I definitely imagine myself like building solutions to that. And that's what I mentioned initially about scratching where it itches. That's currently where it itches right now. And I don't have any great ideas. And I'd really appreciate if anyone in the chat like has great ideas on how to go about addressing that problem. But that's something I try to read about every day and like explore different ways we can come to like a solution or a near solution. So I'd imagine in the next coming years, I hope that's something I can definitely contribute to.
Yeah, well, it seems like you are absolutely on the right path. You've got good habits, a good support system, a community, and everything else. Um,
Mhm.
I don't see any more questions in the Twitch chat. Is there anything else that you just want to say? Use this moment, this platform?
Right. Um, definitely. Like I already mentioned, I started coding like in a very informal way. And I definitely wasn't trying to be like a computer scientist or something, or computer engineer. I just wanted to make my Tumblr look clutch, right? And I knew what computer science was. At the time, I had pictures of Bill Gates and Tim Berners-Lee and like some other scientists on my wall. But the conception, but the reason why I was so scared to like go into formal computer science, because I kind of knew what it was I didn't think I met that stereotype, right? I look on my wall and it's like all the same people, math geniuses, middle-aged or young, like white men, right? And so there was a lot. So like that's part of the reason why I didn't just dive headfirst into it. And I just said, you know what, it's fine. HTML CSS is great. Tumblr is great. Who needs to know all that? It's great. And so I knew there were different ways to create websites and blogs, but I didn't want to get into it because I thought it was going to be a lot of math and a lot of I thought it was going to require a lot of qualities I didn't have at the time. And so I won't say I wasted, but I stalled for a good, say, 3 years or so. And it was just me stalling and saying, well, I'll learn in school, I'll learn in school, I'll learn in school. And these people who are on my wall, they started when they were like a lot younger, but I was also young too. And so I'd say like, regardless of like what you look like or like your background or none of that, it's definitely worth just jumping into what you're interested in, regardless of who's come before you or who is like currently doing it. And if you don't think you meet that stereotype, like to hell with that. Just like go into it and do it. And most of the time, it always works out once you go in with that mentality that you're going to just work independently of what's happened in the past or what the industry currently looks like. And also meeting like great engineers in my freshman year from the National Society of Black Engineers, like great engineers who look like me, who are like kicking ass in the industry, was definitely it made me feel that, man, I could do that too. And so another thing is to create like a support network and meet people. Yeah, so I think that's what I something I'd like to add to the conversation.
Yeah, I absolutely hear that. And I think a lot of people feel like, well, I haven't done this or that or that or this. And,
Yeah.
I guess I could never have a career in computer science. And they're
Mhm.
18 or 19. There's so much
Right.
ahead of them. And, like there, I think also just imposter syndrome and everything else and discrimination in tech, it's so hard to
Absolutely.
deal with, but it really gives you a heightened sense of empathy and passion and drive. And I can definitely see that. We have
Right.
one more question here. Someone's asking about imposter syndrome. Do you ever experience it? And if you do, how
Yeah.
do you deal with that?
Man, like till the day, like up to this point, it's something that's really hard to overcome, regardless of how much you've achieved or you think you've achieved. Just like, oh yeah, I've done all this, but there's always going to be someone who's done more, and that's something I've learned. And going into the internship, like after my freshman year, my school is really small, rural, South Carolina. So in my school, I was very comfortable with where I was at. But going into Microsoft, it's like many other interns, I think it was 3,000 at the time, who like have done like significantly more than I have. And I definitely struggled with it. Um, like when I think back to 2019 during my internship, I did like vivid memories of me going into the bathroom just to cry because I was facing like roadblocks I couldn't like get past, and everyone was like just coasting, and it was just me with like lots of reds on my computer screen. So how I think I was able to how it's been how I've made it easier for myself. I don't think I've like conquered it or anything, is by the support network I talked about. Like people definitely the support network I talked about. Like if you're facing something and you think it's like this huge wall right in front of you, it definitely helps to talk to people about it. That's one thing for sure. And another thing is just going into, it's always great to, I mean, for me personally, it's always been great to be the little fish in the big sea, because there's always so much room to grow. And even if you think you don't know as much as the people around you, well, it's a big sea. You can grow and be just as big eventually. Another thing is that people are always going to be better than you, in quotes. They're always going to know more than you, and that's fine. I think if you feel like at that position where a lot of people around you know better, it can definitely take a toll on you, and you feel like, man, am I even in the right place? But I think a good approach should be, oh, there's so much amazing people around me, so I think I should go and learn from them and like try to become just as good. And the truth is, you never feel you're just as good. At least well, actually, I take that back. But the truth is, there are actually going to be people who are going to know more than you, and I understand how that would make you feel like you're in the wrong place, but it definitely helps to like learn from like the people around you, create that support network, and just have it at the back of your mind that it's great and rewarding to be like a small fish in a big sea. That's for sure.
Yeah, someone once gave me, I think, advice in high school of like, if you're the smartest person in the room, find a different room. And
Yeah.
I think that really helps you grow a lot. And so many people deal with imposter syndrome. Like, it's really, I love that you were brave enough to talk about, just like crying in the bathroom. But I know so many people that have done that during their
Right.
internships because they're overwhelmed. They're putting a lot of pressure on themselves. And it's important to have these conversations so people know that, we're not all just coasting.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Yeah, and in terms of like the internship, it definitely helped to talk to my manager. And I didn't do that for a long time, but I did talk to people and they were like, "Hey, talk to your manager about it." And I thought if I talk to my manager about it, he's going to like regret, "Oh my God, what type of intern do I have on my team? He doesn't know how to do this small problem, really?" But talking to him definitely helped. And he was also honest that, hey, he did think like it was a lot of work. And um and they are not going to know it a lot they've put on you if you don't let them know. And talking definitely like just made me understand that it was a lot and I didn't speak up, and that's why I felt like I wasn't doing enough. I wasn't like getting past it as fast as I should. So talking helps.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great message. And I really hope a lot of hackers hear that and know that they're not alone in that process. I
Yeah.
got one comment here saying that you spoke their mind about technology not disrupting education.
Hey, hey, like if you have any great ideas, like I definitely want to hear them. Like we should definitely work on something because I think I have great ideas too. But that's definitely true. There's been a lot of research about it, like the left brain, the right brain, like there's one creative side, one analytical side. But then in the classroom, like we get information delivered to us in the same way, right? So while there's like a lot of research about it, the classroom is still the same for everyone, regardless of your like your learning capabilities. And even like you go online and there are a lot of great apps that have like democratized education, like Udacity and the rest. And it's the same thing. It's the same content to like diverse set of people, and I don't think it should be that way. And I just don't know what the solution should look like. But you're definitely right on that one.
Well,
Yeah.
I am so excited to see what crazy things you accomplish in the next few years. I'm ready for that follow-up tweet. Uh, um, all right. Well, if you don't have any other comments from Twitter, I'm going to wrap this up. Anything else to say to the community while you're here?
Right. I was gonna plug my Twitter, but you already did that. So that's pretty much it. Um, Follow me. Yeah. That's I really enjoyed having this conversation with you, and like the questions were very insightful and also like very helpful to I imagine like other people watching. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining me. All
Thank
right,
you.
everyone, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to follow Emmanuel on Twitter. You can see it on the scrolling banner below. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a good one.